everybody. Welcome back to the next episode of Hot Mics. I'm Mike Starner, and I'm here with my good friend, Micah Thompson. Micah, what's going on?
What's up, people? Man, I'm glad to be back, man. It's been a couple weeks, but we've been really busy, but not too busy for this. So I'm excited to jump in, especially today with got a special guest with us today, bro.
That's right. That's right. We got Alex Wakeland. And Alex, welcome to the call here. And
Thanks for having
tell
me.
our audience a little bit about who you are, a little bit about your background, and what you're currently working on.
Yeah, so I'm Alex Wakeland. I'm a contractor from the field. So we're kind of the point and shoot guys. We show up when everything's a mess, and then by the time the safety conversations start happening, we're already 3 states away on to the next project. So we often get left out of these conversations, not because we don't want to be, just because of the way the trade's developing. We're super fast, we're super mobile, we're super nimble, but the systems that we rely on are still analog. They're still paper based. And so the thing that I'm trying to work on is to update that, to try to make it so that we can drag this industry kind of kicking and screaming into the digital age. So that's kind of my side project that I've been working on. I've been thinking about it since I was an apprentice, and I kept having to fill out new hire paperwork over and over again. And it was like, there's got to be a better way. And so this is kind of how I got to this place. I do a lot of LinkedIn posts now. I started writing on there just about kind of the breakdown of the systems by the time it gets to the dirt, because I noticed that the way the system's supposed to work and the way it actually works are vastly different. But trying to get that story across is often extremely hard because the top-down view is very different from the bottom-up view. And so I was just trying to kind of connect those dots and kind of be a voice for the people that don't often get into these conversations.
Right on.
Nice, man. I love that. I've been watching your content a little bit myself, new to the LinkedIn space. So you got some heavy hitting stuff out there. But real quick, man, how'd you get in this truck? Tell us a little bit how you navigated your way up through the ranks and like physically, geographically, where you're at, personally and professionally.
Yeah, so I started out going to college. I was going to be a psychologist. That was what I thought I was going to do. So I was going to college, and then the housing crash of 2008 happened, and I was out of college because the money had dried up, and all of a sudden I was competing with people for these white collar jobs that had 10, 15 years experience. They had just gotten laid off. They were competing with me for entry level positions. It was just impossible. Luckily, I wound up getting the right woman pregnant. Is how I got lucky. Her dad was a lineman for the local utility, and he was like, "Hey, you need a big boy job with health insurance." And so he helped me become a line clearance tree trimmer first, because he's like, I don't know you well enough to put my name on you, because reputation is everything out here. So he's like, I don't know you well enough to put my name on you as a lineman. If you can make it as a tree trimmer, then I'll help you. And so I went into the tree trade, and they are massively under. They don't get nearly enough credit because their job is extremely hazardous. There is a lot of skill that goes into that, a lot of knowledge about what kind of tree you're cutting, just the ropes, the knots. It is a perfect launching pad to get into line work. So then I saw linemen were, at the top, and everybody wants to be at the top. So I was like, that's where I'm going. And so I just kept putting one step in front of the other. I'd go get a cert. I'd call the hall and say, hey, I got this cert now. I'm a little bit better. Okay, we'll add it to your file. And I just kept doing that. Got my Class A CDL, learned all my knots, got my first aid CPR, and just kept, doggedly pursuing the line industry. And so then about 2 years later, about 2000, early 2010, late 2009, I got in as an apprentice. And then from there, it was just, I took to it like a duck to water. I love this trade. It was, the puzzles, they're just big, giant puzzles. I need to get power from here to there, and I don't want anything to touch. And so that's kind of what I started doing. And I started just really chasing an education, because that's probably the best thing you can do in this industry is don't just chase the paycheck, chase the education. As soon as I got to a point where I was like, I got a good handle on this type of work, I got to go find another type of work. And so that I just kept doing that. And then I found out about helicopter line work, and it was like, I want to do that. So then I just kept pursuing that. Would call the people and be like, you got any jobs at this hall? No, we don't have any. Okay, I'll call back. And I'd be calling every month. Is there any helicopter work going? Anybody need any certs? And the hardest part was actually to get certified to actually do the work, because everybody wanted somebody already certified. So I basically just had to like wait around until there was a job nobody else wanted and they were hurting for people. That was my ticket. I got in there, I got certified, and that was I think that was in 2016ish. And then that that opened the floodgates for me. Then I was bouncing all over the country, going to all the big jobs I wanted to go to. Started developing a reputation, and then that's what led to me now where I'm at now. Is I'm a general foreman at a transmission project, and it was from that reputation of being willing to do the jobs nobody else wanted, and being able to show up and not only do the job but teach the job to other people. And that's something that the trade is unfortunately starting to lose. I came up with a lot of the old timers, the guys in their 40s, 50s. They didn't have all the fancy tools. When I started, we didn't have power tools. Everything was gas powered or hydraulic powered, and they were calling me a bucket baby for using those. So now we have all these fancy Milwaukee tools and things like that. And it's like, man, I caught myself the other day back in my day, and I just immediately shut my mouth, and I was like, nope, I'm not going to do that.
Hey, Mike, you got to watch some right-of-way guys, man. You got to watch some guys that start off in right-of-way, dude. They're trouble.
I know it. I know it. Yep. There's a lot in your story there that I think the recipe for success, all the elements are in what you just talked about. Starting out in a trade that, tree trimming, I started out the same way. It's a great way to get your foot in the door, but it wasn't exactly line work, right? So you had to kind of like pay your dues, so to speak, go out there and look, tree trimming gives you a lot, how to perform rigging, how to work around the electrical hazard, working with these trucks and equipment, working as a crew, taking direction. So as a young man getting in the trade, it's a great way to get in. And then, your continuous learning mindset. A lot of folks, you see a journeyman lineman, you think they went through an apprentice, they put a stamp on you and you're done. And there are guys out there that think that way. But, if you're going to be world class, it's that continuous improvement mindset. What can I do to make myself an asset? I'm going to get my CDL so that now I can drive the truck, or I'm going to do this, so now I can do that. Go ahead.
After you top out, I'd say the first 3 to 5 years after you top out is probably the most dangerous you'll be in this trade. Enough to be dangerous, but not enough to be, safe. And you don't really have those humbling experiences that is like, oh, I don't know everything. Especially if you don't get out and tramp. If you don't get out and go to, at least as a contractor, as a utility hand where you're on the same system with the same guys day in and day out, it's a little bit different. But as a contractor, you may be the biggest, baddest guy in your area, and then you pick up and go to California, and all of a sudden the 4-step apprentice is looking at you like you're dumb. You don't know anything. And it's because the entire system has just changed. And you got to learn a whole new spec book, not just this spec book, but, site specific EPA standards. It's just so much to learn in line work that you're never the best. You're never at the top. There's always somebody better. And the best thing you can do is go find that better somebody and say, hey, I want to learn. Teach me.
Yeah. And from a co-op perspective, man, you make a great point. I've heard my whole career, man, you get to a co-op, that's it. You're home. That's the best job ever. You're never going to leave. And to a certain extent, they're right. It's an amazing environment for so many reasons outside of even line work. But, I know guys that were like, hey, topped out, I'm good. And that's to each their own, and some people just got to keep driving. And Mike and I are big on leadership and success too, and like what that looks like. So it's about having vision and goals. Clearly you got some because you're a mover and you're an exchange agent, kind of like I think myself and Mike too. But, hey, some people just want to get to that foreman. Some people just want to get to that service truck. And you're right, man. If we're not careful, it's a trap. It's a trap everywhere you go based on the environment and based on the exposure with that complacency. We see a lot of numbers in our industry for sure that we can track about that 5-year guy, that 5 to 7 year guy. It's never the old timers. It's not the new guy. it's them middle of the road kind of guys that
Mhm.
we see this stuff that gets kind of tricky. So no, you're all over it, man. What are you doing as far as, you say your project, your mission, your innovation? Start leading us into what that kind of means. What's the dated process that you're seeing for you guys? What's the stuff that's lagging? The tools are there, the innovation's there. What are you trying to pick up steam for our industry in?
So what I'm doing is I reached out to this company that's already revolutionized the industry in New Zealand. So it's pronounced Junction. It's spelled JNCTN.US. We're going to be launching here in August, and the goal is to eliminate new hire paperwork. All of that personal information, all of that data. What we're doing right now is everybody I work for gets all the access to all my data. They don't actually need the data, but they do need the checks to happen. They need to know that I have a valid CDL, but they don't necessarily need my home address, my number, my blood type, but they get all that information in order to go do the checks. And so what I'm proposing is we use this third party system. They do the checks so that the contractor, all they get is a green check mark. That'll save them on cybersecurity insurance. It'll speed up deployment. It speeds up the processing of the manpower, because the average new hire packet that I do, and this is average. Some of them are like 3 or 4 days, and then other ones they can go as fast as 5 or 6 hours. But the average time is about 10 hours. If we could just eliminate that from all of these new projects we're doing, we could literally save this industry billions of dollars in admin work, and that's nothing to sniff at. And it opens up the doors for a lot of other cool things. Like you mentioned working at a co-op. The coolest thing for me that I see when somebody works at a co-op or works at a power company, they're very motivated to invest in you, because if they invest in you, they reap the benefits from that. As a contractor, I may only work for you for 6 days. I might work for you for 6 weeks. It doesn't pay for you to invest in me because you're actually investing in your competition. So if we start building a way to track these investments and these certifications that we're giving to the workforce, we can start doing like a chargeback system. If you certify me in first aid CPR, let's say that's worth like, I don't know, $50 or something. When I go to the next contractor and they say, we need you to have CPR. Okay, you have it. You've been trained by this person. We'll go ahead and pay them back for that training because we also need it, but we don't have to pay for the whole thing. That turns safety into a profit revenue stream rather than just a cost sink. Because if it doesn't make dollars, it can never make sense. And that's where we're hitting this bottleneck with training. And right now, the Quantas of the company or the industry, MYR group, the real big companies that can afford that cost sink training, they're the only ones doing it. Everybody else is just relying on you going and getting it somewhere else. We'll just keep pushing it off, pushing it off. And now we're running into a spot where it's really hard for us to get bare hand certified, because unless you're willing to kiss the ring and commit to staying at that company for a certain amount of time, they're not going to train you. Same thing when I was trying to get the helicopter cert. They're like, unless you're going to be with us for this entire project, we're not going to train you because you'll leave. And if we can close that loophole without punishing people for it, we can have a much more nimble workforce, a much faster workforce, and honestly, a much more skilled workforce as a whole.
Sounds like the co-ops, Mike, are going to start cooperating. Or
Trying.
start cooperating maybe with Alex's idea. What do you think?
Well, what Alex is talking about, he's given a specific example, but it's broader than that. So you think about our industry, you go back to the 60s and 70s, that term we see in all our standards, under the sole control of the utility. That's really how it used to be. So from the generation, transmission, distribution, building a substation, setting the meter, dealing with customer service complaints, that was all done by utility personnel.
Yep.
Contractors would be brought in to do maybe some very complex transmission project, road crossing, pole that was very hard to get to, distribution very specialty. Now we see contractors doing bread and butter work. We see in some areas the contractors running the entire operations for the utility, and they've sort of opted out to just kind of manage it as a program manager. And so, the challenge, I think, and we've talked about this, Micah, how do we get everybody thinking the same way about these things? Because our industry's never been so fragmented. really.
Exactly.
Whether you're talking about investor owns, co-ops, public power, non-union, union, East Coast, West Coast, storm aggregators, blue sky work, everybody has their interests that they're chasing after. But when it comes to professional development, workforce development, keeping people safe, making sure that we're investing in the future of the industry,
Hmm.
it's really going to take us all talking the same language.
Right. And with these old timers that are leaving, not only are they leaving, they're wanting to be closer to home. They're not chasing these jobs that are working 712, 714s. They're not like I'm the oldest person on my job at 37. That's crazy to me. 37 years old. I have the most experience by far, and I'm the oldest person here. And I'm like,
Yeah, that's wild.
where did everybody go? And
Yeah.
they're all back home because they can go home and they can work 40 hours a week. They're in their sunset era. They don't want to be out here training and working weekends. They want to be home with their grandkids. And I don't blame them. They've earned it. But we have
Yeah.
to figure out a way to capture that knowledge before it's gone.
Alex, have you seen some of this back end, or front end maybe distraction affect the work and the environment and the capacity of the guys and some of the product that's being put out? And then to our point that me and Mike are trying to help with this movement, man, some of the safety concerns, because we're not focused on what we need to be focused on because there is so much division or because there is so much paperwork and so much unknown. I would assume, I don't know, that the unknown in the contractor space has got to be such a head game, man. It's got to be legit.
Yeah, so and that's really what I'm chasing. I'm chasing clarity and accountability. Like just take storm response for example. You go to a storm, especially on the East Coast where it's not as controlled by the hall. If you go to the West Coast, the IBW over there is like you will take a call through the hall, you won't do anything else. But you get to the South, the East, the Midwest, and a lot of times these guys are taking calls off their phone. It's just a text message. And you're showing up to a company you've never been to before, hopping in a truck you've never seen before, and driving across state lines. And so now with this system that I'm proposing, it doesn't just do people, it does things as well. So if I show up and I scan into your truck and that truck's never been certified, it has no bucket rating, it hasn't had its oil changed in the last 10 years, I don't drive the truck. That protects me as a worker and it doesn't flag me as a target. Because right now, if I show up and they say you're driving this jalopy to storm, and I say I'm not driving that, they say, cool, get your shit and leave. You're not getting paid. So that's a huge motivator for me to break the rules. So we need to remove that motivation and we need to protect the contractors that are actually doing it right. Because right now they're competing against those unscrupulous contractors that are skimming benefits, using equipment from 1980. The profit margin on a guy who paid cash for a truck from 1980, put no money into it, loaded all of his buddies into it and sent them on storm is
Mhm.
huge. The contractor who has a 2025 truck, has all union help, their profit margin is much, much slimmer than their competition. We need to try to close those loopholes without basically relying on the workforce to not go to work, because everybody knows we're in operations. Our job is to get the job done. We're going to get it done no matter what the obstacle is. So we need to remove those obstacles so we're not relying on somebody picking between feeding himself and risking his life.
Dude, that's crazy to hear. And, that's really important perspective that you're sharing there. Cause Mike said it a minute ago, top down, we need this top down, but sometimes it just doesn't happen that way, man. And
Yeah.
I don't want to run any rabbits, Mike, keep me straight. But like, man, Alex, how many of those times, man, did you have to make that call, brother? How many of those exposures did you have in a career like yours, dude? I'm sure it's probably more than you want to admit, and
Yeah,
you don't have
a
to, but
lot
like,
more.
yeah, that's a crazy thing for a co-op guy to hear, that like you could get flagged and some of this terminology, and a guy's got to choose. I'm here to work and I'm here to provide and make this living, but at what cost?
Right.
And having to weigh that out, man, that's a moral thing.
I've seen things where, the trailer isn't rated for the weight that we're putting on it. The backyard machine's too heavy. What do? We don't know that. There, I'm not a mechanic. I'm a lineman. I know everything there is to know. Well, not everything, but I know everything to do my job, but I don't know the mechanic's job. But I have to sign off on the paperwork. Yes, I'm pulling this trailer. Yes, I'm going to risk my CDL. They told me that it was of proper weight, but the DOT is not going to care. And when the axle gets ripped off, what do? We'd figure out a way to make it work, because that's all you can do. You're already halfway across the country. It's either pack your shit and leave and don't get paid, or try to figure it out. And guys will try to figure it out,
Right.
especially if they're the type that came up hard, or they have bills, or they have obligations. And most of the guys that are out here doing this type of work, that's what they have. Those are the people that are keeping everything running. So they're very motivated to keep the paychecks coming.
Yeah, we had our last podcast, we had our friend Jamie Kahn on, and we had talked about all the layers of expectations that we place on our guys. And if you just made a list of all the things,
Oh, it's
from a
massive.
management perspective, you said that's a reasonable ask. Look, you're a professional truck driver.
Mm-hmm.
You're a journeyman lineman. You have years of experience. You've got all the credentials that you produce through your app.
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to do this without me micromanaging you. But the reality is that the human brain only has so much capacity.
Yep.
And so if you're doing, your pre-trip inspections, you're doing your pre-flight and your booms, you're going to the trailer, you're looking for nameplates, you're looking at the, how it's been registered, how is the truck registered to be able to tow that kind of weight?
Mm-hmm.
What's the equipment that's on there? How's it been maintained? You're relying on other people.
And don't
And
forget, hurry up.
and hurry up, right? Because in the
Yep.
contract world, every minute, everything that you pay to have done better have a good return on it, or else you're just spending money, right? So,
Exactly.
I know you've made that point before in some of your other stuff that there's a cost to being effective when it comes to quality and safety and
Mhm.
and production. The cost there's some costs or some overhead associated with excellence. And if you want to have an excellence program, you have to understand what all those costs are and really map it out in a way that you're not putting it all in the lap of the worker. And one of the things that's really cool about safety management in today's world is we're starting to shift away from, the worker's the problem to now the worker is the solution, which is pretty
Right.
cool. But that forces us to get out into the field and engage with our workforce and
Mm-hmm.
listen
Yep.
and understand where those pain points are. So, you're out there on an active transmission project and probably just, the next one in the line of projects you've been working on this year.
Yep.
And so what do you see as far as a gap between management and labor when it comes to understanding what the real problems are that you're facing out there? And maybe even better, tell us a story of where, you saw some success, where it went well.
Yeah. So one of the issues that I see quite frequently is rental equipment. So when you rent a piece of equipment, there's no way for me to check and see the record of that rental equipment. So, for example, like the ropes we're using to pull wire in, the first, I believe it's the first 250 feet is considered your burn piece. After so many pulls, you're supposed to cut it off.
Right.
How am I supposed to check that? This has been through 8 different contractors before it got to me, and they're like, "Oh, well, the solution is when the colors faded out, that's when you replace it." Well, the colors all faded out. So we asked them, "Hey, can you guys replace this?" And my company's response is obviously, "Well, why do we have to do that? That didn't happen to us." It's like, well, I don't, on the ground level, I don't care whose fault it is. I just need you to fix the problem. And then it has to go through all these checks and balances. Who are we going to charge for this? How is this going to come out of budget? Meanwhile, I'm sitting there waiting to do a wire pull. I have 15 guys on standby. You just gave me this yesterday. I requested a rope rig. It's ready to go, but it's not ready to go. So now it looks like we're stalling and we have the target on our back. So now it's either pull the wire or we'll get rid of you. And it's like, we need some kind of way to protect the workforce. Because like I said, we have to make money. That's why we're showing up to work. But we need a system in place that'll protect us. And one of the successes I found with this, we had the safety guy actually come out. And I was like, "Hey, come here. Come look at this wire. Or come look at this rope." So I brought him over to the rope rig and I showed it to him. And I said, "We are not using this until you fix it. I'll get on it right away." And we had it fixed like that. So that was the guy I needed to talk to, but everybody in between there had to justify before it got to the next ladder. So I kept having to justify to this guy why we needed it, and then he'd tell his boss. Then he'd ask more questions and justify it. Finally, when I finally got to the right person, here, just fix this problem so we can get to work. That's when we started getting success. And that's what a system like Junction can do, because it goes straight to the guy who makes the decision. every time I make a wire pull, I check into the system. It tells the system this piece of equipment has been used for a wire pull. No matter which contractor it goes to, that record follows that piece of equipment. So now when it shows up and I say, hey, this rope needs fixed, all the answers that they need are already there. It's already in place, and boom, it can just get fixed. That's the type of efficiencies that we can unlock. We just need kind of a collaborative effort, and it's really hard to get people who compete to actually figure out how to work together. They all share the same workforce. We're just trading hard hats is all we're doing.
Dude, I love that story. And Starner, here's what I heard. There was a safety guy in the field. Look out. Whoa. Heads up. And then that safety guy was probably a guy who came from the industry and the trades.
Yep.
And transitioned into this type of role as a safety person. And then what else I heard, what you didn't say is that I understand a little bit better now. I haven't met you, but I've been around 20 years. Yeah, this was ultimately so we could get the work done. But these guys that are standing around, they deserve this to keep safe.
Exactly.
They deserve this to be safe. It's about production, sure, but my God, can we do it?
Right.
So we're not exposing people to even more risk than what we're doing. And man, that buy-in is tough, but man, that's a good win, man. I'm excited for you. I hope you get a bunch more of those.
Yep, that's the goal. I want to make that the standard win because we're all on the same team, chasing the same dream. We just want to get the power lines up and going.
The problem is, just about every issue that we have, we put it on a spectrum where it's binary, right? It's like,
yep.
The worker is trying to screw us and he doesn't care. And on the other side, it's management. Doesn't want to spend a nickel. They're going to replace me in a second. Who cares? And the truth is that our work environments are way more complex than that, right?
Huge.
So, your example you gave is a perfect example of you got a pulling machine that's got rope. There's training that we've had that says this is when you need to retire the rope. We're starting to see those conditions, so we're having discussions about retiring the rope. But because of all the resistance along the way to get that rope replaced, it becomes just that. It's resistance, and to the point where the guy in the field just wants the job to keep moving. And so then they'll say, "Well, I've ran rope like that and it hasn't broke before in the past?" And then they start applying past experiences. And can it break? Probably. That's why the manufacturer tells us to replace it like that.
Right.
Odds are that you can probably get away with it. And our guys in the field make real-time assessments based on their personal experience, and then they apply that filter. How much of a pain in the ass is it going to be to get this dealt with? Exactly. And they're constantly maneuvering on the job site, making deviations to keep the job moving. Our job as safety leaders or operational leaders is to be tuned in to see those deviations happen and then ask the guys, why did you decide to continue moving forward with that rope? Well, every time we ask you for new rope, we get resistance, and the juice ain't worth the squeeze, and we just decided to move forward. And then that's where you have that 1% fatality that creeps up on us that nobody expected or didn't reasonably put the pieces together to say that's what's going to happen. And then we have it. And then we're all looking at each other saying, whose fault is it?
Yep, exactly.
We're creating new norms, man. Shout out to my boy JD Cox. He spoke at SAI a few weeks ago, man. I don't know if you know JD or not. He's a killer. And I'm totally stealing this. Alex, if you've never seen it, or Mike, man, plumb bob. What's plumb bob? That's true north. That's the standard. Yep. And you need to rake a pole. What are we going to do? We're going to shift. And all of this stuff, man, your story and things me and Mike are trying to push up against with conversations like this are breaking what we have created, which are new normals.
Yep.
You guys are having these experiences and they're creating new norms, and we're deviating a little bit. And then we're way over here going, man, how in the world? Well, 15, 20 years of just creeping on down the line with that old guy who's talking trash about, back in my day that we got to fight doing, man. So I appreciate what you're doing, man. This is going to happen. We're going to make progress. You're going to make the change. We're going to see a shift. If we keep pushing, we keep failing safely. That's another thing me and Mike are talking about. Using opportunities and training, using opportunities like these chances you had to speak up as a leader and go, man, 2 days ago, maybe we would have pulled with it. But today, no. You know,
Yep.
I've got to make that moral decision myself. And then again, why? Man, these boys over here. So
Mhm.
we get away from that new normal. So kudos to you, man. It's exciting stuff.
Well, and that's in the contractor world, it's that servant leadership that everybody preaches about. If you don't do that, I'm not going to be the GF on the next project. One of these guys might be my GF. I might just be a JL. And if I raw dogged them, they're going to do it to me. So like
That would
that
never
is
happen.
that is very apparent though in our industry. And like, especially on the contractor side. I know in the co-op world and the utility world, like you move kind of in a linear chain up and you don't really go slide back down. But I've been a GF, I've been a superintendent, I've been a JL, I've been I bounce all the way back and down through the ranks. I've been doing that for the last about 5 years now. I'll go up, the project will end, I'll go back down. And I'm more than happy to get back in my tools and start working with my buddies. And every single one of them is happy that I'm coming back to work with them. And that is a better endorsement than anything else you could do out here.
You can lead from anywhere, man. It's something
Yep.
me and Mike are talking about constantly with the guys in our class and the leadership stuff I'm doing. Yeah, there's got to be a point, man. But man, anybody can lead. Anybody's got that work stop authority Mike talks about and education on. Anybody's got a voice that see something, say something. It sounds so cliche, but if we'll step into it, I'm a history guy, man. And I told Mike the other week on our podcast, Lineman Handbook. It's got in the Lineman Handbook from the 40s courage,
Yep.
moral courage to do
Yep.
what we have to do and to say, no, man, not anymore. I'm done with
Well,
it.
cool story about the Lineman Handbook. The guy who wrote that book is from my hometown. I have a signed copy from him.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah,
Let's
so
go.
when I was coming up through the apprenticeship, I could go to him and ask him questions. The guys who wrote the All Bat books, they were from my hometown. So when I was in the apprenticeship, I was eat, sleep, breathe line work. That was it. If I had a mistake at work, and this happened one time, I got lippy at work to my foreman, and on my way home, I heard about it from my father-in-law because he's a lineman. When I got home and I'm mowing the grass, I heard about it from my neighbor because he's a troubleman. And then when I sat down to dinner, I got it from my wife because she's the
No,
daughter of a lineman, and all of her
no.
friends are linemen. So it's like, man, I have got to be good at this job, otherwise I'm going to get eaten alive.
Well, what I
Yeah,
thought was cool was you started us off talking about you went to school for psychology, right?
Yep.
And so much of what we're doing in the trade now is around behavioral science, if you think
Mhm.
about it, like what
Oh
makes
yeah.
people do the things that they do. So, and then you talked about your journey, the decisions you made to improve upon yourself and give yourself the best opportunity to take the next job and all that stuff. The continuous. So maybe as we tune out of this episode, maybe just finish this out with a discussion around, how do we develop the next man up? When we're out there, whether it's a man, whether it's management, the employer trying to select the right people, or it's the crew taking it upon themselves to develop our new folks. What's the best way that you've seen to really go out and try to develop the next man up?
So instead of just tracking compliance, we're going to have to start tracking competency, because the competency is the thing we're trying to get to. Compliance is part of the path to get there. And if you have somebody who's competent and you can track that, you can not only see their work record, but the people they train. And so now you can start seeing this crew makeup where you have an old timer on the crew. Maybe he's not the foreman, maybe he's just the JL. And you can see the accident rates of that crew go down because of that experience. You can put a value on having that old timer there. Sure, he might move a little slower. His shoulders aren't as in good a shape, but he's still sharp. He still knows the system inside and out. That has real value, but it's so hard to put a dollar value on that now when all you can see is production. And the same thing with safety. The better you are at safety, the less it looks like you need it. It becomes invisible. When there's no accidents, there's no problems, people start saying, why are we spending so much on safety? Why are we training so much in safety? We don't have any accidents. We're better than this. And then safety starts getting their budget eroded. It starts going downhill. We need to start tracking those type of things. And we have the ability to, it's just the will to do it. And that's what I'm hoping I can do with Junction throughout the industry and throughout the country. We have a pilot going with a local coming up. We have a launch coming. I'm really looking forward to all the exciting things we can do with that data. currently the IBEW and the union halls, they can't see how many hours we're working. You have no idea if worker fatigue is creeping up and causing accidents. This system will give that data to the union hall where they can then analyze it and use it for safety metrics. And that's super exciting to me because data is the new gold, and I'm trying to give everybody a shovel.
Nice, man. Nice. That's exciting stuff. Well, we can't wait to hear about the success you're having. We can't wait to get a follow-up in or just keep in touch with us so we can keep shouting you out, man. So that's good. I'm excited to have a guy like you in this space that's understanding there's a need. That's kind of what me and Mike are trying to do in our own lanes, see a need and attack it the best we can. So stay in touch with us, brother. I'm real glad to have met you, and thanks for jumping on. Starner, you want to wrap us up, bro? What you got?
Well, you guys have heard me say competency and caring, and now I'm going to add innovation. So competency, caring, and innovation. I think, Alex, I think that you represent all those qualities, and having you out there in the thick of it, being a good influence on our folks, I can't thank you enough for that. Micah and I are getting a little long in the tooth. All we can do is stand up on our bleachers and root on, cheer you guys on. But we really need quarterbacks like you out there in the field making these things happen. So I appreciate you for that.
I was going to say, I'm just an echo of those that came before me because this is what they did for me. They kept me safe and they passed that torch to me. It's an honor to be out here to be able to do it.
Well, not everybody feels that way, man. Not everybody. Some people are happy to sit on the sideline and just wait for that check to come. So I'm happy that you're taking a leadership role. Sometimes it's not the most popular position that you take, but you're helping to make everybody go home at the end of the day the same way they showed up, probably better because of your leadership, and we thank you for that. So on that note, Micah, Alex, I'm going to get us out of here. I'm going to thank everybody for tuning into this episode. This is episode 5. We're at episode 5 now. So, man, make sure you give us your ideas so that the next guest we have, we can really talk about some new and current stuff and it's relevant for you guys. And we'll see you next time. Hot mics.
Later.
Yeah.